The Galactic Union, as old as the stars themselves, spanned millennia, uniting countless species across the vastness of space. Empires have risen and fallen within its ranks, and more cultures than could be counted had joined its esteemed assembly. With all this shared history and camaraderie, the Union believed they had mastered the art of diplomacy and unity, until humanity arrived. In truth, it didn't expect much from humans. The Galactic Union's records categorized Earth as a newly viable civilization. Humanity, still young in its technological journey, was seen as a species that might one day mature, but had no particular strengths to contribute in the present. They were, to the Union, something like the scrappy little brother who wanted to join the adults' table. But soon, the Union learned about humanity's traditions. Every civilization had customs of gifting, of course, but humanity's particular focus on sentiment, thoughtfulness, and the deep meaning they placed into even the smallest gifts was curious. What species went out of its way to give a most heartfelt gift simply because it wanted others to feel appreciated? It began with an unassuming Union diplomat named T. Roll, whose scales shimmered with the proud colors of his people. The Volan culture was logical and pragmatic. Gifting was limited to essentials, the gesture nothing more than a polite exchange of necessity. T. Roll had seen centuries of interactions and forged countless alliances, so when he arrived on Earth, he saw the diplomatic mission as a routine formality. He would meet with the representatives, exchange polite pleasantries, and then report back to the Union. But humans had other ideas. His visit began with the usual protocol, a tour of the Earth Representative Council, meetings with ambassadors, and discussions on peace and cooperation. All was as expected until the day came for his ceremonial farewell. Ambassador T. Roll began the human diplomat, Ambassador Maria Lopez. She wore a warm smile, one T. Roll had seen often on her face but had yet to understand. "We'd like to offer a parting gift." "Most appreciated," T. Roll said, nodding with dignified gratitude. He expected perhaps an official document or a technological trinket, something functional yet uninspired. But instead, they presented him with an ornate wooden box, hand-carved with intricate designs, and a plaque that bore his name, in both Volan script and Earth's English. Confused, T. Roll opened it. Inside lay an object crafted from Earth materials, a gleaming sphere of quartz, suspended above a base of obsidian. Ambassador Lopez explained, "It's a globe, representing the union of our worlds. The base is obsidian, symbolizing strength, and the quartz sphere represents clarity and honesty. We wanted to convey our hope for an enduring and transparent partnership between our people." T. Roll blinked, his scales shifting colors in genuine surprise. It wasn't the beauty of the gift that struck him, it was the obvious thought behind it. His people would never consider symbols in a gift. Volan exchanges were efficient and utilitarian, objects that had clear, practical value. Yet these humans, they had crafted an entire metaphor within this object. They wanted him to feel their intention. "Thank you," he managed, his voice softer than he'd intended. A warmth he hadn't experienced in centuries seeped into his heart. He cleared his throat, remembering his role. "It's very touching." And so, T. Roll returned to the Union with more than just a treaty. He carried with him a gift, a symbol of humanity's strange but genuine desire to connect on a deeper level. Over time, word of humanity's traditions spread across the Union. Other ambassadors experienced the same, receiving gifts that felt tailored, meaningful. Slowly, the other species began to adopt the tradition not simply to gift, but to give something that conveyed empathy and goodwill. Years later, T. Roll found himself in the Hall of Union Ambassadors. This time, he held a small but intricate gift, a sculpted artifact from his people, with colors that represented the uniqueness of the species he would meet that day. The recipient, a reptilian species known for their harsh and stern demeanor, was visibly taken aback. The Union's oldest members would later say that humanity's arrival had changed them. They introduced the idea that diplomacy was not just formalities, but friendship, that unity was not just an agreement, but a feeling. And for the first time in centuries, the Union felt truly united. Decades after humanity's introduction of thoughtful gifting, the Galactic Union had changed in ways even the oldest diplomats couldn't have predicted. Alien species across the Union began to embrace the human tradition. not just as a formality, but as a heartfelt practice. What started as a diplomatic nicety had become a cornerstone of union culture. But as with all customs, some struggled to adapt. One such species was the Thryxians, a deeply logical, machine-like race with crystalline exoskeletons and an absolute lack of sentimentality. To them, gifting was as alien as expressing emotions through colors or smells, and their exchanges were strictly data-driven. Diplomat Vril, newly appointed as the Thryxian ambassador to Earth, had always seen humans as curious anomalies. She hadn't quite understood why Union members would place so much importance on heartfelt gestures. Nonetheless, the Thryxian High Council had ordered her to follow Union norms, meaning she'd need to create a suitable gift for her first meeting with Earth's Ambassador Lopez. Her research led her to a peculiar but popular phrase in the Union's records: "It's the thought that counts." She pondered the meaning, sifting through databases on human psychology, sentimentality, and gift-giving. After careful analysis, she decided the logical approach would be to craft a gift that represented, data specifically, the quantifiable value of the Union's partnership with humanity. Vril presented her gift to Ambassador Lopez in a small meeting room within the Earth Consulate. Ambassador Lopez's eyes lit up with genuine interest as she examined the unusual gift, a shimmering crystal prism, its translucent facets shifting colors with any small movement. "This is beautiful," Lopez said, admiring the way the light refracted into endless colors. Vril nodded, her voice flat but proud. "This object contains data encryption from all known trade agreements between Thryxians and humanity, along with the projected value of our partnership over the next 1,000 years. Each facet represents a key data point, and when illuminated, it displays the entire statistical model in colorized patterns." Ambassador Lopez tilted her head, looking thoughtfully at the crystal. "So, it's like a symbol of how much our relationship means to the Thryxians." Vril considered the question. "It is statistically representative of value," she confirmed, almost confused by the human's evident warmth. "Does it please you?" Lopez's smile softened. "It does, but I'm more moved by the fact that you put thought into it." Vril processed this. She hadn't fully grasped why her research called for thought in a gift. She'd merely followed protocol, but Lopez's reaction was one she hadn't anticipated. The ambassador's smile and her words conveyed an impact that data alone could not quantify. This encounter became something of a turning point for Vril. She began observing humanity's gift-giving customs more closely, noticing the warmth, the stories, the personal touches they added to each exchange. Soon, she found herself unintentionally pondering what kind of gift she could give that would have the same effect on a human as Lopez's reaction had on her. Several months later, Vril returned to Earth, this time with a different gift. It was a small metal charm crafted in the shape of a crystal, with inscriptions of Thryxian symbols etched along the sides. "This is a representation of my home planet's structure," she explained, her normally even voice sounding uncharacteristically soft. "It was carved by hand, using artistic principles I have recently come to appreciate." Ambassador Lopez's eyes widened as she accepted the small charm. "Vril, this is beautiful." Vril's crystalline skin shimmered in shades she hadn't intended, revealing her unease. "I attempted to incorporate sentiment," she said. "According to my studies, it should convey care." Lopez laughed, a sound that Vril had come to recognize as a sign of joy. "It does, Vril. This is one of the most heartfelt gifts I've received." Vril felt something shift within her, a strange warmth, a tingling sensation she'd only read about in human databases. Her gift had succeeded, not because of the data it held, but because it had resonated with someone else. And in that moment, she realized that for the first time, she understood the human concept of giving. Across the galaxy, other diplomats experienced similar revelations. Humanity's tradition wasn't about the gift itself, but the genuine connection it created. From the stoic Thryxians to the reserved Ventri, even the most rigid species in the Union had begun to open their hearts, learning that sometimes the most precious gift of all was the feeling that came with giving. The Galactic Union's shift toward heartfelt gifting had now blossomed into a full-blown cultural movement. A festival known as Unity Day was established to honor these thoughtful exchanges. celebrated on the anniversary of humanity's induction into the Union. It became tradition on this day for all ambassadors and citizens across species to exchange gifts that embodied the bond between different worlds. At this year's Unity Day celebration, Earth was hosting representatives from every member of the Union. There was thick with anticipation as humans and aliens alike gathered to witness the exchange of gifts. For Ambassador Lopez, who had once been the first to introduce humanity's tradition, the day was particularly meaningful. She watched as each species approached the center stage, presenting unique gifts that told stories of mutual respect, history, and hope. One of the final presentations came from Ambassador Nora, a representative of the Vraxian species, a race known for their powerful intellect and intense pragmatism. The Vraxians had once been notorious for their disdain toward frivolous customs, often finding the Union's growing culture of sentiment and symbolism baffling. But today, Ambassador Nora approached the podium with something small cradled in her fur-clawed hands. Lopez leaned forward, intrigued. Nora's voice, a blend of metallic clicks and soft hums, echoed through the hall. "This is a Vraxian memory crystal," she began, holding up a small, polished stone embedded with swirling flecks of color. "To the Vraxian people, memories are sacred. We collect and preserve the most profound moments of our lives within these crystals, using them to reflect on our past. This particular memory crystal is special." Lopez blinked, a soft warmth spreading across her face. She knew Vraxians were fiercely protective of their memory crystals, rarely sharing even glimpses of them outside their species. Nora continued, her voice growing softer, almost vulnerable. "The memories contained in this crystal are of my encounters with humanity, my first impressions, my skepticism, and my eventual understanding of why you do what you do." With that, Nora gently placed the memory crystal in Lopez's hands. The ambassador instinctively felt its weight and warmth, but as she held it, the stone seemed to resonate, pulsing faintly with each of Nora's words. "Through this crystal, you will see my journey with humanity, from my initial distrust to my growing respect and, finally, my gratitude, for through your traditions, you showed me that connection is not just a strategy but something meaningful." Lopez felt her throat tighten, holding back tears. She whispered, "Nora, this is an incredible honor." In that moment, Lopez knew she was holding not just an object, but a story, a connection, a shared memory of two civilizations learning to see each other not as mere allies, but as true friends. And as she looked up, she saw others in the hall also deeply moved, each reminded of the value of Unity Day, of the bond between worlds. Later that evening, as the celebrations continued, Lopez found herself alone on the balcony. The crystal still clutched in her hands. She could feel its energy, a subtle warmth that seemed almost alive, and in its pulses, she could sense the story of a once distant, skeptical being who had learned to see the beauty in humanity's way. And somewhere across the stars, Ambassador Nora was likely feeling that same warmth, reminded that even the most logical minds could find room in their hearts for connection. Humanity's legacy was not one of power, technology, or conquest. It was a gift, one that transcended cultures and species, weaving a thread of empathy throughout the cosmos. As the night sky stretched endlessly before her, Lopez smiled. This tradition, born of Earth's humble gift-giving, had spread farther than anyone had imagined, and in the heart of every Union member, from the logical Vraxians to the stoic Thryxians, a piece of humanity now resided, a memory, a connection, a most heartfelt gift.